Hello everyone, my name is Leah, and in today's video we will be going over the Hall family tree. Before we start, if you haven't already, make sure to watch the disclaimer video that is posted on my page. Also, if you want to see more pictures and videos of the family that are not included in this video, feel free to check out my Patreon. And if you want to see some clips of my gameplay before I post it here, make sure to check out my TikTok. Both will be linked in the description of this video. I started playing Sims back in 2020, and that is when I made Journey and Caden Hall. During that time, I didn't really have that many mods or expansion packs, so my gameplay was really basic. But as I started to get more mods and expansion packs, I decided to get more creative in my gameplay, and you will see that as we make our way through the family tree. Also, I have started taking pictures and videos of my Sims and gameplay this year, so there won't be a lot, if any, pictures of the earlier generation. And in my gameplay, I tend to choose one of the children to focus on and go into the next generation with. But if you guys like my gameplay series, we might jump around to other households and play them for a while. I also am terrible with names, and I just randomize all the baby names until I see one I like. So if I mispronounce a name, I'm sorry, but that is just how I have been saying them in my head. Now back to the family tree. We start off our family tree with Caden and Journey Hall. I do not have any pictures of them, sadly. At this time, I did not have a lot of custom content, but before I got Sims 4, I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos on Sims 4 gameplay, so I already knew about mods and downloading CC. So at this point, I already had MC Command Center and Wicked Whims, and a lot of hair and clothing CC, but I did not have any expansion packs, so their gameplay was pretty boring. They met each other and fell in love, and then they had their son Trey and raised him up, and when they died, the main house was passed down the family line. Now when it comes to Trey, I got my first couple of expansion packs, so my gameplay got a little more interesting with him. I got packs such as the Vampire Pack and Realm of Magic. So Trey's backstory is pretty much that he grew up with his family and did good in school, and when he became a young adult, he fell in love with two women, Tanya, a vampire, and Meredith, a spellcaster. He eventually married both women and ended up having two children, Jordan and Thaddeus. Also, I know vampires are supposed to be immortal, so when Trey and Meredith died, Tanya decided to just go into an eternal sleep with them. Jordan was the firstborn, and she was born to Trey and Tanya, so she was also a vampire just like her mother. I chose Thaddeus as the person I would mainly play and go into the next generation with, so there is not much to Jordan's background. She lived life, and when she was a teenager, she met a guy named Gunnar, and they fell in love and had a daughter named Michaela, who grew up and fell in love with a guy named Tane, and they got married and moved out of the main house. Tane and Michaela did not have any children, and Michaela and Jordan both went into eternal sleep when their lovers passed of old age. Now Thaddeus was born second to Meredith and Trey, and he was also a spellcaster, and who I chose to play into the next generation out of the two kids. And so Thaddeus grew up and met Luna when he was a teen, and when they were young adults, they eventually got married and had their first child, Amir. And when Amir was a child turning into a teen, they had their second child, Skylar. So around this time, I got a bunch of new expansion packs and mods, such as the High School Pack and Base Mental Drugs mod. And I was starting to get tired of the play it safe gameplay, and so I wanted to start trying out my different game packs and mods, and just get creative with my overall gameplay. And I ended up doing that with Skylar since Amir was already older and I had a different storyline for him already. So we're going to start off with going over Skylar's background, even though Amir was born first, because her story is more of a side story in Amir's gameplay. So I started playing Skylar when she was a toddler and Amir was a teen, and for her gameplay, a burglar broke in and killed Thaddeus and Luna while Skylar was in the room, and she saw the whole thing. So she was raised up by Amir, but when she hit high school, she started hanging out with a bad group of people, and that is how she met her first boyfriend, who I cannot remember the name of, but he was a drug dealer, and because of her traumatic past, she started taking drugs, and she was on every drug available, and she was skipping school to hang out with her friends and boyfriend, but she was also cheating on her boyfriend with a lot of guys, and she even had this older guy named Jace that she would cheat on him with, and here are a few pictures of them, and these are the only pictures I have of Skylar in gameplay. But anyway, Skylar was still doing drugs and skipping school, and then one day she caught her boyfriend cheating on her with the one girl in the group that she did not like, so she fought them both and broke up with him. Then she graduated and moved in with Chase in the city, and she still was doing a lot of drugs, mainly cocaine, during this time, but she would mainly just party and do drugs. And Jace was cheating on her with all the women in their apartment building. And at this point, I had tested and used all the different new mods I had wanted, and I wanted to get back to my gameplay with Amir. So to wrap up Skylar's gameplay, she was at the club high on drugs and ran into the guy that killed her parents. So she shot him, and when she got home, she caught Jace cheating on her. So she fought both him and the girl he was cheating with and moved back home. And then she eventually got her life together and stopped doing drugs. And then her and Patchy ended up together and they moved out. So now we are going to get into Amir's storyline because I started playing his character and then took a break and started playing Skylar. So I'll let you know when that break happened. Around this time, I got the University Pack and a lot more expansion packs. I also got a lot more mods that make the game more realistic, like mods about gender and sexuality, and mods about relationships and dating. So Amir was the firstborn of Thaddeus and Luna Hall. Amir had a great childhood, and when they were 18, they discovered that they were gender fluid. And this is the only picture that I have of Amir by himself when he was an adult. But he does dress both masculine and feminine, as you will see in a picture later in the video. Then his sister Skylar was born, and then Amir fell in love with a boy named Seji and a girl named Yasmin. And then one night when Amir was spending the night with his boyfriend and girlfriend, his parents were murdered and he was left to raise his sister. Then he married Seji and Yasmin when they were young adults, and Skylar was a child. And then they had their first child, Riker, who was born from Amir and Seji, and since ensembles males can give birth, Amir gave birth to Riker. And then when Riker was a toddler, Skylar became a teen, and that is when I started playing as Skylar. And when she moved back in and was getting to know Patchy, Riker was a child and his sister Zara was born, which is who I'm going to talk about next, since Riker is who I play into the next generation. Zara was born from Amir and Yasmin gave birth to her. Around this time, with playing with Riker and Zara, I started taking pictures of my Sims in game. But I mainly played Riker, but I did play with Zara a little bit too. So when Zara was 18, her and Riker were in high school together, and she found out she was a lesbian. And she was also the co-captain of the football team. And in high school, she met her girlfriend, Chloe Gonzalez, who was on the cheer team. They dated all through high school, and at this point, I was playing Riker and his storyline. And then he had children, and I was playing them for a while. Then I came back and played Zara for a little while after playing Riker's daughter Ariel, who we will talk about later in the video. So when I started playing Zara again, her and Chloe were already married, living in the main house. So I got them to move into Riker's old apartment, and Zara went to college and graduated as a doctor. And that is a picture of her and Riker. And then after living in the apartment and working as a doctor, Zara and Chloe decided to have a baby. And then their daughter Luna was born, who was named after Thaddeus' wife Luna and Zara's grandmother. And then I played Zara and her family for a little while, and Zara's daughter is now a toddler. So now we are going to get into Riker's storyline, which is one of my favorites outside of the one I am playing right now, which is Ariel. Also, I started really taking pictures with my Sims when I started playing Riker's character. I also wanted to play with the basemental drug mod as a drug dealer, and wanted to play with the gang part of the mod too, and try to reach the top of both. So Riker was born to Seji and Amir, and he grew up in the main house with his parents, sister, and aunt, Skylar, who eventually moved out with Patchy. And when he was a teen, he was the captain of the football team, and Zara was his co-captain when she became a teen. He was dating the head cheerleader Tracy. He also started a gang with all his close friends. Sadly, I do not have any pictures of them, but his best friend Cordell does pop up in the background of a picture later in the video. His right-hand man was his best friend Cordell, and his bodyguards were Paris and Eddie. Then he had 3 regular gang members, Hyatt, Kevin, and Landon, and 2 enforcers, Bria and Sydney. The gang would do missions and sell drugs for Riker, and Riker was also a drug dealer at this time, and he was selling drugs. Riker was also a man whore and cheated on his girlfriend a lot at one point. He was sleeping with the principal's daughter, and he was also sleeping with an older woman who was named Zemina, who he got pregnant and ended up having his daughter Ariel with. And he got full custody of Ariel, and then he later found out his girlfriend Tracy was cheating on him with his bodyguard Eddie. So he ended up fighting Eddie and kicking him out of the gang and broke up with Tracy. He then decided to focus on raising Ariel and graduating from high school and getting into college. Luckily, he had his family to help him take care of Ariel. And around this time, Amir, Seji, and Yasmin are elders, and here are some in-game pictures of them. Then Riker graduated high school and went to college for villainy, and he lived in the dorm, but he still went home to visit Ariel, or she would come stay in the dorm with him, and he was also still running his gang and still a drug dealer, but now Eddie was the leader of his rival gang and dating his ex Tracy. But Riker was having fun in college, sleeping around, and making a lot of money from his gang and drug selling. Then he met a girl named Zuri, and they became friends. Zuri was an art history major and lived in the same dorm as Riker. Also, that is Cordell in the background of the picture. Zuri and Riker continued to hang out and get closer. She even got to meet Ariel, who fell in love with her instantly. So she would go visit her with Riker at the main house all the time. And then Riker eventually asked Zuri out on a date where he asked her to be his girlfriend. And then they started dating, and during graduation, Riker proposed to Zuri. Then they had a beautiful ice-themed wedding since I got the new ski pack. And you can see Ariel as the flower girl. And then they went on a ski trip for their honeymoon. During their honeymoon, they went skiing all day, and then they went to a spa. After their honeymoon, Zuri and Riker and Ariel ended up moving into an apartment that I built for them. Zuri bought a art studio where she sold her art, and Riker opened a strip club and reached the top of the drug and gang mods. So he was just living life with Ariel and Zuri, and then they found out Zuri was pregnant with her son Zane, which I honestly spent a long time debating if I wanted them to have a second child because I knew I wanted to focus on Ariel for my next generation. But in the end, I decided it only made sense for them to have a child. Plus, I just got the realistic birth in the mod and wanted to test it out. And that is how Zane was born. And to wrap up Riker's story, he eventually ended up killing his rival gang leader Eddie, and then he moved back into the main house with Zuri and his kids. And when Ariel was a teen and Zane was a child, that is when I put Zara in college and moved her into Riker's old apartment. At this point, Seji, Amir, and Yasmin had passed away of old age, so I did a revamp of the main house, and then I started playing as Ariel. But we are going to talk about Zane first before we get into Ariel, because I did not really play him that much, but he grew up to take after Riker. He was pretty much sleeping around in high school, and now he's in college trying to get his computer science degree. Now let's talk about Ariel. Ariel was born to Riker Hall in Zemina when Riker was in high school. Ariel was raised by her father Riker and never met her mother. And then during college, Riker met his best friend Zuri, who he eventually married and had a son with named Zane, who is Ariel's half-brother. During Ariel's teen years, she met her best friends Raina and Cody. She also started dating Cody's brother Aiden, who she eventually broke up with because she caught him cheating on her with one of her friends. And when she confronted him about cheating, he tried to attack her, which is how she met Deacon and DeMarcus because they saw the incident and DeMarcus ended up beating up Aiden. Then Ariel got to know the twins and found out they were werewolves, and then they started dating and went to prom together. And during prom, Ariel and Raina were crowned prom king and prom queen. And then Ariel became a young adult and her and the twins got married and she was turned into a werewolf on her wedding night. After being with the twins for a while and becoming one of the pack, Ariel then finds out that she is pregnant with the twins. Anaya, Ariel's daughter, was born first, and then Caden, Ariel's son, was born second. But even after the twins, Ariel still worked out and went out with her friends. Also, Raina and Cody got married. When the twins were children, Ariel found out that she was pregnant with Demetrius, and now we are up to date on the Hall family. The twins are now teens and Demetrius is a toddler. So now we are up to the current generation, so let's talk about what has happened up until where we are in the gameplay as of now. Starting with Anya, the daughter of Ariel and Deacon. Anya was always the more dominant and outgoing twin compared to Caden. But at the moment, her and her twin are in high school and they have made some friends that are also a part of the pack. Tess and Dexter McClure, who are brother and sister, and Tess is Anya's best friend. Anya has also gotten a boyfriend named Fetu, who is a mermaid. I might go and change the way he looks because I've been looking for more CC so he can look more true to how I want him to. But anyway, he asked Anya to prom and she said yes. But before prom, the twins went out to eat with their parents. And then they took pictures by the beach and went to prom. And Anya and Fetu won prom queen and king. And then they went and hung out with everyone after prom. So Caden was born to Ariel and DeMarcus, and he has always been the more dependent twin. And he loved to spend time with his father DeMarcus growing up. Him and his twin are also super close and love hanging out with each other. He also likes to hang out with their friends Dexter and Tess, and Dexter is his best friend. Caden has really not been up to much other than focusing on school and his friends and family. But I do have plans for him when he and his twin get to college. But for now, he just finished his first prom with his friends and sister. And last but not least, we have Demetrius, who was born from Ariel and Deacon. And after he was born, I took a break and played Zara, and that is when she graduated college and had her daughter Luna. So Demetrius and Luna are both toddlers, and he just loves spending time with his family. So that is the family tree in everyone's backstory. So I will start posting my gameplay videos, and I will do a later video showing you the main house, the apartment I did for Riker, and Ariel's current home. But in the meantime, if you want to see all the pictures and videos of the family, check out my Patreon and make sure to follow me on TikTok. And be sure to subscribe so you can be notified of the next time I post. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, my lovelies.